We walk by faith, trusting in you to show us the way. The throne inside, I know you are in me. Each day, guide my way. Lord, keep this child in touch with your love. Lord, here I am. Take my hand. Take my life. Lord, I believe, and Lord, I receive. My heart form, Lord Jesus, be my guide, show me the way. I'm just a child with a craving for love, Lord, here I am. Amen. That is what we are. We are the children of the Lord. Craving for love. Lord, here I am. Good to be back this evening, morning, afternoon, and night for some of you. But just wanted to say, starting out, I posted last week, early in the week, about a friend of mine that had pneumonia and was waiting on a COVID test. And I ask all of you to pray for him. That friend of mine is me. I've made myself a friend. I don't have an enemy in me anymore. And that was me. And I had pneumonia in each lung. And the first test the doctors said was COVID positive. And I didn't feel like it was, but they said it was. And so they sent me to my family doctor. That was an emergency center. They sent me to my family doctor 2 days later, and he said, I want to test you again. And we tested, and I did not have COVID. It was COVID negative, and I thank the Spirit for that. And my lungs are doing much better. Still a little congested, but I just wanted to sit down a few minutes with you at least. And talk about some things. So thank you for all your prayers. And it has turned out well. I do not have COVID. I have not had COVID. I didn't see how I possibly could I'm doing vitamin B, C, D, and E, plus all of my minerals, the zincs, and everything else. And when they told me I had COVID, I started taking ivermectin. I know they say it's for horses, but you just take a little lesser dosage, and it'll do the same thing for you. And I believe that really helped me in my lungs, the pneumonia and things. So I'm over all of that, and just a little bit on the tail end of it. So thank you for all your prayers. They were a savior for me. And so I wanted to take a few minutes. This is coming up close to the end of the year. This is December 26th. Brother Ilario wrote something that it resonated with me a little bit. And he said, now we are 1 year ahead. So we're 1 year further than we were. Indeed, we are in the fast forward mode. If you remember, 2021 was fast forward. And that was the motto we used. I'm sure there's plenty of other great things we could have called it, but. And he said, who could have envisioned that we would be moving this rapidly in 2021? Fast forward. The fast forward year. And he said, many have entered their awareness and have transformed into light. Fast forward. That's very true. This year has been just an amazing year for all the new people that were coming in left and right by listening to the website, which Brother Ilario takes care of very well, listening to YouTube, which me and an admin take care of very well, and then, of course, coming on our live broadcasts, we have some new ones that come in, but we've had hundreds and hundreds, even thousands, that have come in this year. And I know the website normally hosts more than, I believe it was 2 million a quarter, somewhere around 6 million to 8 million people visited a year. And I know that the YouTube is being visited quite a bit. It's growing slowly. If you're out there and you haven't done it yet, you can go to my YouTube site, Aquarian Yansa, and subscribe to it. And that helps me to be able to do a lot more with YouTube than I can do right now. There's a lot of things I can't do because I don't have enough subscribers. It's just the way they do. It's all advertisement. But if you can go to YouTube and pull up my name, Aquarian Yansa, and go there and subscribe, that would be great. That will help me out as far as being able to do more on YouTube. So, yes, we are a year ahead, and who could have envisioned that we would be here this far along at the end of this year? And I went back, and I was sitting today just thinking on it, and I've thought on it for several weeks. I was at the farm for a while doing some hunting and things like that, 2 different weekends, and 4, 5, 6 days each time. Just thinking a whole lot on 2022. And I wrote a motto today that I thought would kind of fit where I envision us going in 2022. And I called it 2022 Strengthening the Aquarian Wave, because that's what we're in. We're in an Aquarian wave. Now, we had a couple of planetary adjustments that we had to go through during 2021, and one of them was that Uranus is moving slowly toward Aquarius, but Saturn came into Aquarius right at the turn of the year, and you know all the chaos that has happened between the riots, the political scenes across the world, and the COVID, and the destructions of the storms and this and that and the other. And that's what Saturn brings. Saturn brings a lot of chaos as it moves through the different houses. So, but Saturn is going to be waning out in 22. And the reason I wrote down Strengthening the Aquarian Wave is because Aquarius is truly a new move, a new movement. Aquarius doesn't like old. It moves into new, and it begins to cut off all the old ways. And one of the top events in 2022, early on, is that Jupiter and Neptune are now in Pisces. I know some of you are saying, well, what's this got to do with me? We'll get to it. But Jupiter and Neptune are now in Pisces, and you know Pisces was the last church age movement for 2,000 years. but they're moving out of Pisces and they're coming into Aquarius. Now Jupiter will enter Aquarius in January this year, 2022, this year coming up. And it's not until about October that Neptune enters into the Aquarian house, retrograde. So what we're finding is that a lot of the chaos of Saturn is continuing. And I think it was for good reason. We needed to see this chaos. We needed to see the disruption. We needed to feel the dissatisfaction of how that feels. And Jupiter and Neptune, Jupiter's going to bring in organization. Jupiter's going to bring in formation. Jupiter's going to bring in the strength, the strongholds of Aquarius taking hold and anchoring Aquarius a little better. And when Neptune hits around October of this year coming, 22, Neptune, of course, is the spiritual. It really ties into the spiritual movements and vibrations and frequencies. And the whole spiritual side of things begins to take a hold strongly. So between January and October, we're still going to feel a lot of this, the things that are happening. Even though Saturn is waning out, Jupiter is coming in, we're going to see more organization. We're going to see truth, things like that take hold more. We're going to see anchor back into, I wouldn't call it rule, I would say just an anchor back into a surety and morality and things that are good about humanity. We're going to feel that begin to move in the first part of 22 with Jupiter kind of taking over Saturn. And then Jupiter is a strong influence on childhood. So you're going to see a lot of these that have been a little bit in chaos in these teenage years. They're going to be breaking into Jupiter, and it's going to settle them down, and they're going to begin to realize what is best for them, and that all of this chaos is not best for them, but they'll want to settle back down in something better than what was before. So we see this happening. So I called it, for the motto, Strengthening the Aquarian Wave, 2022. Jupiter and Neptune are in Pisces, moving into Aquarius in 2022, 2023. And they have very strong waves between the two. I said Neptune in 22. Neptune is October of 23. But Jupiter begins to settle things down so the spiritual can be received and accepted. So you got a whole lot going on between 22 and 23 to settle down what's going on in humanity. Many things were exposed. That's what's good about Saturn. Chaos. You know, it's like a river. You take a river and it goes into chaos and flooding and trash and everything under the sun, just from the floods pouring into that river, and logs and trash and everything else. And then as the river is roaring in all that chaos, what does it do? It washes and exposes all of the stuff that was in that river by pushing it up on the banks as it goes. And it exposes everything. You can see many of the things that were exposed during the last year as we moved in. So we see that happening. And then in the year 2022, now in 2021, we had an Aquarian stellium. Stellium being a cluster of stars or a cluster of angels coming together. And honestly, I think that is the only thing, as far as the zodiac and as far as vibration and frequency, that's the thing that saved us from watching. You think it was chaotic. If we hadn't had that Aquarian stellium, it would have been a catastrophe. Almost was anyway. But 2021 is quickly leaving us. and we've moved fast forward. So in 2022, there will be a cluster of stars right up front in January, a Capricorn stellium. I like that. A Capricorn is Earth. You have Capricorn, Taurus, and I can't think of the other one right now. I'll think of not Libra, Virgo. Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. And they are the Earth signs. And there's going to be a stellium in Capricorn, which will settle things way down in 22 before Neptune ever gets here in 23. So you're going to watch all of this chaos begin to disappear. You're going to watch all of this disorganization in politics, religion, economics, and everything else. You're going to watch it begin to settle down and ground itself. And when it does, you're going to see a lot of things exposed. Just like now you're watching the scribes. I mean, just look at them. I call them scribes. You know what that is. That's the media. It's just falling apart. You know, some of the media have had meltdowns, and just some of the most famous, CNN, 5-6 people just out over everything from sexual to pedophile to whatever it might be. They're out, and we're watching a meltdown in the media. And as all of the different reports from the federal government, whether it's FBI, CIA, NCIS, whatever it might be, we are watching all the things that were that they said were so terrible about the Afore administration of America. They have found them to be false. And the reports are showing it up left and right, everywhere. All you got to do is watch. And these guys who were lying about it are now being exposed, and they're being fired, they're being this, and it's something else to watch, because Jupiter is swiftly moving in, and Jupiter is going to pull this media back into a little bit of organization. And the media and the religion and the politics and all of these things, it's all a part of the Spirit of Christ watching the vision of where we're going. So we have this cluster in Capricorn, and that's in 22, and we're going to watch the Aquarian waves, the vibration, the frequencies, everything about Aquarian, or everything about the age after the church ages. We're going to watch it. And I'll go into that more throughout the year as I'm watching some moves, because 22 is a big year for the orbital changes. We had some big things happen in 21, but 22 has some major orbital changes which will change the influence of humanity and angelic and bring this merging together. So today I wanted to call this, in 2021, in review. 2022, the Aquarian wave. Today's December the 22nd. I wrote this. Now it's December 26th. And I want to thank everyone involved with us for the wonderful year that we've had. And I do want to thank every one of you for that. Many of you out there have been coming faithfully. Others of you have been supporting faithfully, which helps me to be able to do all these things. And it's been a wonderful year that we've had. We are understanding our individuality. We know, if you've paid any attention at all through this last year, you are able to stand on a platform on your own. I wasn't trying to make followers. I did not want followers, and I don't want followers. I'm trying to make leaders. I'm trying to open your mind up enough to where you can dig in, mature, and walk up on that platform, this platform of the Aquarian age, by yourself. And you can stand there individually. And that's part of where I think we are at now. We're understanding our individuality and our togetherness as one. We know that we can stand alone, and then we also know that we can be in oneness together with all of humanity, nature, and everything that's happening. We have stepped past the judgmental nature of the hierarchy. Piscean age, if you want to call it that. Piscean was the hierarchy of not horizontal, but vertical. This one's over this, and this one's over that, and it's just a vertical. And so we have moved beyond that hierarchy of the Piscean age, and we are living in a level playing field. We have leveled out this playing field a whole lot in 2021. When all the chaos was going on, all of these great structures of religion and politics and economics and spirituality, the church ages, the Piscean age, the influence of Taurus and Aries and Pisces all together throughout the last 3 testaments, we have leveled all that out and brought it to where you, as one person, can stand in the middle of all of it and stand. If it comes up to being the last one standing, you can stand there because we have come to an understanding of our individuality. We step past the judgmental nature of the hierarchy of the Piscean age, and we're living in a level playing field wherein the anointing is flowing horizontally from within the Aquarian age. And we are the Aquarian people. Now, you might be Aryan Aquarian. You might be Capricorn Aquarian. Your birth date may have been in a lot of different houses. But what's influencing you right now is this universal soul change of the Aquarian age. Let's continue. As I've watched so many, and I've watched so many step up and begin feeding us with their understanding on the platform. They don't need to say, is this right? Or is this right? Do I say this or do I do that? They're not worried about that. They're doing well. Many writing and looking at and bringing out things that I come here and use their things and talk on them because they have understood their individuality and they're coming together as one in Revelation. So it's happening. True leaders do not make followers of themselves. Rather, they make more leaders with understanding of all things in their season. And thank you for the fellowship this year, and love bless you always. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of leaders raise up in this who were at one time followers. And don't get me wrong, you almost have to step into a following position for a little while. And then as it breaks open to you, you step on up into a leadership position. So, Brother Joe Gomez wrote this. He said, I was thinking how I see these epicenters of attractions in my life. Calvary, it was our redemption. A church was called, an entire church. I was there. You say, how can you say you were there on the day of Pentecost? How can you say that, Brother Parnell? If you have followed your prophet's message, William Branham, just go back and read through that 1964 and 65. Just read through some of his messages, and you'll understand how we can say that. The mighty God unveiled before us is one of them. And he's going at it, and he's just screaming, and he's saying, when Joshua crossed the river Jordan, I was there. He didn't say I was represented there, like Joshua represented me. He said, I was there. He said, when When Moses destroyed Egypt, I was there. When John the Baptist was baptizing on the River Jordan, I was there. I was there in all of those things. And if we can take a look at that in a way of Calvary, our redemption, it was a church that was called, pulled this church of 4,000 years to him, pulled this church of 2,000 years out into the future to him, and Calvary was our redemption plan, and we was all there. And he said Mount Sunset, church age was over. We're called out of the church and gathered in the cloud. That's what we did. I was there. You was there. All of us were there together. Mount Sunrise, Christ in the earth, love for humanity, and we moved over to the other side, and it became Mount Sunrise for us. And I was there when that began to break for us, a new understanding. I was there, Christ in the earth, love for humanity. I am here. It's going on now. Divine love for humanity. We're not trying to represent Christ as one man anymore. Rather, Christ is humanity. Like Paul says, we are ambassadors for Christ for humanity. That's what we are now. Christ is humanity. We're ambassadors of humanity. There's no small part. One said, well, yeah, but Brother Parnell, you can see all these things because you're this. We're one. We're one. There's no small part. When my mouth is speaking, your mouth is speaking. When my eyes are looking, your eyes are looking. When my mind begins to open up and pour out from the gap, you're pouring out from the gap. We are one in this together. Understand your individuality, and then understand your togetherness. That when Brother Joe Gomez wrote this, it was me. When Alirio wrote the one before, it was me. And when I say something, it is you. When we come to this togetherness, we'll stop thinking of ourselves as smaller parts, smaller people, lesser persons, higher in quality, higher in power. They have more power than you. You'll stop thinking that way, and you will thank the Spirit for every person that's making a move in here, because every move is you. You're not being left behind. No one is being left behind. No one is lost. There is no small part. We are drops of ocean. The same time, we are the fullness of the whole ocean. Everything is in you. Everything. We're the fullness of the whole ocean that we represent. We are ocean. And our piece is representing the full ocean and everything that the full ocean can do. So we see this now. I wrote, in Christ was and is the entire revelation. In the anointing. In Christ. In the Great Spirit. Was and is the entire revelation of the Spirit. All attributes are displayed in Him as a preeminence or as an emissary of all things. In Him would be a display of what is in every single one of us. When you look at what Christ did, you don't say, oh wow, Jesus was a great man. You say, I did that. I was there. I opened the blind eyes. I brought liberty to those that were in bondage. I set the captive free. I did this. I did that. And because you were there doing it, you know what you're going to do when you're here? You're going to do the same thing. You're going to bring liberty. You're going to bring freedom. You're going to bring all these things to the people for them to have an opportunity to experience it. All attributes were displayed in Him as a preeminence or as an emissary of all things. In Him would be a display of what is in every one of us. The fullness was not reserved for one man, but it opened up from one man. The fullness opened up from Christ. The fullness opened up through William Branham, and then it broke open and it opened up to all of us. The fullness came, it dropped into an encapsulation in the church ages, and then it opened back up at the opening of the seals. So we have this, and we find ourselves all here. Brother Joe, we find ourselves all here. Now, looking across 2021 and the things we opened in the Revelation, I was going back across it over the last week or so, just looking at it, and I was just amazed. I was overjoyed. It's good to reminisce and review, to give yourself a gauge as to whether you're moving in the Spirit or if you become stagnant. Many people have become stagnant. They're repeating the same old, same old. An Aquarian age, an Aquarian people, an Aquarian wave won't go there. You're definitely not stepped up to the awareness of your present age and your present being if you're still repeating and regurgitating a bunch of things that men said down through the ages. And there's nothing wrong with showing what they said, but what have you got to say? Jesus came, and they were all saying, but Moses said this, but Moses said that. We got to follow Moses. We got to follow what Moses said. We got to do all these laws. And Jesus said, Moses said unto you, I know that Moses said unto you, but I say. Jesus knew that he had stepped up a notch, come into more awareness than when Moses was alive. Well, I got the same thing to say to you. I know what Jesus said, but I say unto you. I know what William Branham said. I can go back through and give you quote after quote after quote from Paul all the way through William Branham. I studied it since a 10, 11-year-old boy. I studied all those. And I'm telling you that right now, the things that I am bringing out to you, I may say their name, and I may sometimes quote what they say, a scripture or a William Branham quote, but then I will bring to you what I have to say about that. Because we're in a new age, a new place, in an Aquarian age, in a level playing field, and you can hear from anyone if you're willing to open your heart up and your mind up to the music. Everyone is playing the music. So in the year 2021 was a great change in every realm of the Spirit. I see this looking across 2021. The things we opened in Revelation is always a joy. It's good to reminisce and review and to give yourself a gauge as to whether you are moving in the Spirit or whether you become stagnant. We, as I went across looking at things, we have certainly moved the needle this year in 2021. The year 2021 was great change in every realm of the Spirit. Political, religious, economic, earth, universe, spiritual, all of it was major change. We started the year in 2021 with a message. If you go all the way back, get to thinking about it, we started the year in 2021 was a message, and it was called The Dance. Many of you right now are thinking back saying, yeah, I remember that. The Dance. And what a dance it has been, 2021. I put out a little thing that said, your Christmas gifts in 2021 are the people that are remaining alive around you. It was that chaotic. And so we went into the dance, and then we went into the wilderness transformation, and we showed how the woman in the chariot was rising up out of the wilderness, and they saying, who is this coming up out of the wilderness with all the spices and all the beauty and everything else? And she goes on, and she's with Solomon, and she says, I am black and I am comely. And Solomon says, you have no spot in thee, you're perfect. And so we brought our view up through that wilderness transformation when we thought we looked ugly like an ugly duckling does. They just don't look real pretty for a while, and then they move into that maturity. Same way with humans. They go through that little spat where the head's too big, the ears are too little, the whatever it might be, the teeth aren't growing right, and the mouth might be crooked for a little while, and the neck might be a little too long or a little too fat, and you kind of look at them and you think, boy, I hope they grow out of that. Well, they will, and they do, and they grow into beautiful young ladies and young men, and that's what we're doing. We came through an ugly duckling stage where things looked a little off all the time, but the life form was still in there. So we see this wilderness transformation, and we have transformed totally out of the wilderness doctrines and dogma and creeds and all those things. We've transformed totally out of those. If you hear one come out of our mouths, I know this is the way it is for me. If I hear one come out of my mouth, I am almost immediately made aware of, no, we've moved from that. That's not right. That's not what we want. That's not correct. And so we have moved out of that, and this has been a great year for change in politics and religion, economics, in the earth, in the universe, in the whole spiritual scene, the things that are being ministered. If you remember, back in 2004, you remember I had a pen in my hand and that was given to me by William Branham, and I began to move that pen. He told me, he said, take the pen down and touch the earth, and I began to move that pen, and it was ripping open the heavens, and new words were flowing out of the heavens, and it was brand new words. And I was so amazed at the power of that pen ripping the sky open and words pouring out everywhere that I stopped and looked at it for a second, and Brother Branham screamed out, touch the ground, touch the earth. And I brought it on down and touched it. There was a great explosion, and everything was so new. And you remember the visitation. So we come through that wilderness transformation, and we brought about natures of the Spirit, because we began to look and we said, you know what? We didn't become a living soul until we were birthed here in the earth through our mother and father. But natures of the Spirit have been coming through time, throughout eternity, in pieces of time. If in one piece of time there'll be a nature of the Spirit, which was the Garden of Eden. Then another piece of time was from Eden to Noah, and another piece of time. It's all measurements of all the different natures of Taurus and Aries and Pisces, and all these different natures were coming out, and we learned all about the natures of the Spirit and how that the Spirit doesn't remain the same. As attributes come out of the Spirit, its nature changes. We just watched a universal soul change over the past 60 years. A complete universal soul change. And then we came into, when we got to talking about natures of the Spirit, we got into a woman's seed. And we realized the woman's seed is not just a woman sitting here, wherever they might be. I told all of them that would have been here to stay home. While I'm getting through this, I didn't want to give it to anybody. And so the woman's seed, the nature across the earth, has been the woman's seed. And if you remember, we went into the 12 tribes of Israel, and we showed how they spread out across the earth, and we looked into it, and we saw how that the United States was Manasseh, Ephraim, raising up in the last days, and the prophecies of Manasseh and Ephraim, and the United States. It was the old Native American Indians called it Turtle Island. And if you remember, United States, when it formed with 13 colonies. And I just put something out long ago for everybody to look at. The turtle has 13 sections on it, which we talked about the woman and the woman's cycle, and how that she goes through a cycle with the moon every 28 days. She purges herself and cleanses herself. Her own body does that. And how that it goes through 13 months, and how that 13 was love and the nature of the woman, and then 13 being the cycle on the backside of all the turtles, Turtle Island. 13 is on the turtles, 13 is on America. It was the 13 colonies. And we showed how that in every nation, those 12 tribes have begun to raise up. And we saw the woman's seed, the nature of the woman taking over the earth, because Israel was married to Christ, which was a type of the woman. And when the 12 tribes spread themselves across the earth, we're in it right now. The woman's nature is raising up to come up to the quality and to come up to being one with the male nature. And it's going on, and it's happened. And it's just getting stronger and stronger. And then we went into the Aquarian stellium. We looked at all of the Aquarian stellium and all the planets and things that were in that stellium. And it was a cluster of 7, just exactly like the cluster of angels that William Branham met in the cloud at Sunset Mountain, a cluster of 7. And it's a cluster of 7. This Aquarian stellium, it shows up, and it's showing that the great cluster that was once in the heavens is now in the Aquarian earth, walking around. You are the Lamb. You are the Spirit. And you are opening up a brand new set of seals. So we went through that Aquarian stellium and talking about 2021. And then I remember one very significant message, Jesus and the woman. And we took the woman at the well and showed how that Jesus at the well, it was early on in his ministry, 4th chapter of John. He had not been able to really reveal himself, and he had not really been able to make anyone aware of who they were. They were all becoming aware of who he was, but not until Pentecost did any of them become aware of who they were. But this little woman, Jesus, she reached in and she touched a spot in Jesus that no one else had touched. And he gave all kinds of instructions and all kinds of things through the Mount of Olives before he met this woman and everything. And he went into all kinds of things you ought to be doing and ought not to be doing. But when he met this woman, he fell in love. And I'm not talking about so much a sensual love, as he fell in love because this woman, not only was he able to open up things in her, but she was able to open up things in him. And that's what this woman nature and this Aquarian stellium and the nature of the woman's seed spreading across the earth, that's what this is about, is the male and female becoming one and being able to open up and gain knowledge and understanding, wisdom, power, and authority through one another, through becoming one. Yes, they could have stood as individual, but there comes a time when you come to togetherness. So we talked about that, and it was a great stepping stone for me to recognize how I need to treat my woman, my woman in me, my nature of who I am. Then we went into the infinite, we went into the cluster of change, and we talked about how that this whole cluster of change did so much for us. And I could go back and start going through so many of all the changes. Remember, the angel of the Lord spoke to him and said, "You're looking at everything in reverse. You didn't come here. You're not going to leave here to be glorified. You came here to be glorified. You're not going to leave here and go in a rapture. You came here to be in a rapture. You're not going to be resurrected and go somewhere else. Here's where you're resurrected, here and now. And he went through so many things with me, and this cluster of change reversed almost everything. It was a great move in Aquarius. And what I'm talking about are things that should have been notched into your belt, into your gun, notched into your belt as something you killed that you didn't need, killing spiritually, and something that a notch saying, I have moved up. This is where I'm at now. Cluster of change took place. And the very next fellowship, I said, and this we will do. We will continue to change. We will continue to do all these things. And we talked about the blessings of cycles. And how, you remember all the cycles we went through back there around the first of the year? If anybody wants to go back and listen to them, and it was all about the 7 church age cycle, and how that the 7 church age cycle came out of the 7 seals cycle, and how that the trumpet cycles came forth, and the plague cycles came forth, and the 7 thunders, and then all of these other cycles in your personal life, the 28-day cycle of the moon, the woman and how she cleanses herself. And you remember we got into that cycle where that we went into Adam's tent, and we died in the tent, and all of us become unclean. And at the end of 7 days, after dying in Jesus' tent, we went on Calvary, died in Jesus' tent, resurrected, and we come out, and it was 7 days unclean in the church ages. And then we stepped in, and it became a complete new day, a complete new oneness that was taking place all around us. That was that whole blessing of cycles. Then we went into the female. I said, this is male and female brought together as one. Middle wall of partition torn down. And they come together as one. And there are cycles in life that bring us together as one. We moved through the marriage. Remember, we come over into 22, Matthew 22, the angelic age, 21 and 22, where there neither be marriage nor given in marriage. We've already done all that. We've already come to that point. We moved past the marriage. We moved past, remember, the whole cycle, the blessings of cycles. There was the resurrection, the body change, the rapture, the tribulation, the wedding supper, the millennium, the great white throne, and new heaven and new earth. And that cycle's going on in us all the time. We're moving things out. We're eating on more. We're stepping up greater. We're going into more of a rest. We're moving in, and we are new heaven and new earth. We come through all those cycles, and that was what the female cycle was all about, was the male and female uniting together. When a male and female unites together, just like gasoline and fire, a match, a spark, there's an explosion, and you don't have gasoline around anymore, and you don't have the match around anymore. It becomes something else completely new. And this female is a brand new cycle. And we are setting patterns in this new cycle. We are bringing form to this new cycle, and we are doing it as female. We're doing it as male and female connected together. Someone asked me, says, what's it mean to connect to someone? It's when you can come together as male and female. You have male, female in you. They have male, female in them. And when you can connect to that, talking with it, working with it, examples, anything. When you actually hit a connection, you're going to break something open in that person, or they're going to break something open in you. It's going to be the Jesus woman at the well. And then we talked about a pleasing body of life and how that this whole movement is to bring a new body, a new heaven, a new earth, and a pleasing body. And that's what we are now. We have no sin. It's been declared. We have the organization, the form, the understanding, the knowledge. We have the power. Jesus said, what I have, I give it unto you. And we have the authority. All authority is given to Jesus. You remember Matthew 28? All power and authority is given to you in heaven and earth. And Jesus said, the things that I do shall you do. So who has all power and authority right now? Other than us. It's not out there. Then we went into spiritual and natural affection. Spiritual and natural selection. And we talked about how the spiritual and natural are now coming one. And my spiritual person, Tori, Don, is blending in, merging in, and becoming one with my natural. My spiritual, before the world was, made a selection. 1954 AD. Don Parnell, February 8th. That'll be my body dropping out of Opal Parnell's womb from Lehman Parnell. I will get in it. And my natural joined itself with my spiritual. Now, the issue is they were almost opposites. But they're living in the same body. And so what you do as you become aware is you break down all those walls. You break down that fear that was in the theophany. You break down that unknowing that was in the humanity side. And humanity and theophany work together. Theophany pouring life into humanity, into your body, into Don Parnell, into whoever it was that was born. And then humanity pouring back into the theophany all of the experience behind the knowledge that theophany had. So that we know what water is. We know what it tastes like. We know what a woman is. We know what a man is. We know what sensuality is. We know what intimacy is. We know what love, peace, and joy is. And we know what hate, envy, malice, and strife are. We know all these things. And it was through the natural, spiritual selection. When you selected as a spiritual being, full of knowledge, but darkness in all of what it meant, then you built yourself a body and you stepped into it. And once you built that body, and you say, well, yeah, but that body's by sex. That's not the body it was built. Yes, it is. It is. Go back and read William Branham's message on the future home. He said that when sex entered the program, he said that didn't interrupt one thing. You still came as a spiritual being, but you had to come through the tree of knowledge to get there. So it didn't change anything other than it gave you the experience in the tree of knowledge that you never would have found in the tree of life. Now, with all this experience, you can begin to adjust everything to the tree of life, and oh my, what an understanding you have. So we see that spiritual and natural selection. Then we talked about the observer within, and how that you are actually that spiritual being that is observing what you created and being fed. William Branham said in the future home, feed your body. And that's what we are doing. We are feeding and making. He said, feed and create, or feed and make your body. The theophany put life in there, and then the human spirit has a ability to go out and get the experience of all the attributes that were put in you from that life. So we are the observer within. I'm not worried about what might happen in the body. It cannot touch me. The body might die, I can't. The body might get sick, I can't. The body might lay down and sleep, I don't have to. On and on and on. I'm the observer, and I'm eating off of the body, filling myself up with what the body, the avatar, the image is all about. And then we talked about dimensional realities, going back through 2021. Think about these things and look how far you've come. Dimensional realities. We used to think we had to die to go to that other dimension. We used to think we had to die to get another body from that dimension. We used to think there was some kind of an eternal body floating around out there in dormancy, I don't know, laying in a pod or something somewhere. And whenever we died here, the pod would break open and we'd jump into that body. Well, William Branham was very clear. We do not believe in a transmigration of souls. We don't believe that we transmigrate to another body. I'm in my body. I'm in my theophany. I am here, and I transform what I'm in. So we looked at that, and we began to realize that all the dimensional realities, it's all right here. I'm walking and living and being and doing and exercising and experiencing and gaining knowledge in all of my dimensions simultaneous at one time. And that broke open a lot of people I remember writing me about that. And then we talked about, some people said, but said this is a finite existence, Brother Parnell. This is finite. It's not infinite. So I went ahead and just took a message, took a thought, because I just couldn't see it. You know, they say time is not eternal. Yes, time is eternal. Time is a section of eternity. There was a time for Taurus from Adam to Noah. And inside that time was a lot of things. But that was a part of eternity. We moved out of that into Aries. We moved out of that into Pisces. We moved out of that into Aquarius. So we looked at it and we said, finite is just a little section of infinite. They're the same thing. It's just that infinite is no end on either end. And finite has, in this infinite cycle, is a little piece of that cycle. It is eternal. It is infinite, but it's measured in a finite condition. So finite and infinite are the same thing. It's just that you cannot measure finite, and you cannot measure infinite, and you can measure finite. And that's what we do. I'm an eternal being, but I measure my finite existence here by saying I was born February 8th, 1954, and whatever date I go out of this, whatever date I move through the veil, whatever you want to call it, then I will have measured a finite part of my infinite existence. So we talked about that, and it's just so clear to me. We brought in that message, permissive. and perfect will. Oh, you got people all the time. That Don Parnell, he messed up, and now he's in the permissive will of the Lord. I received that. I don't know how many brethren have tried to tell me that. And I said, thank you, love you with all my heart. Permissive will is the same as the perfect will. Permissive is just a little section of the perfect will that you measured out and said, I don't know if that's perfect or not. I think that's permissive. It's just a little section of something. Maybe there was a 3-year period in there where I got drunk, I went to cursing, I lied, I stole, I married, I divorced, and I married again. And you're looking at all that and you're saying, he's in the permissive will of God. That was just a little section of the infinite. That was just a small section of the perfect will. And you measured it out, trying to make it look bad. That's okay. We know better now. So then we moved on, and we talked about the father and mother relationship, and how that the Son of Man, Son of God, Son of David, all of those sonships are over with. The last one, Son of Man, was taken to Sunset Mountain, and all of the angels and all of the patriarchs and all of the people, every one of us, removed our crowns, threw them down, and said, Son of Man, you did it. You're perfect in everything. And it was us. What were we doing? Exchanging or taking off the Son of Man robes, laying it where it belonged, and coming back into the earth to take up the Father's business. No longer son, no longer in sonship, but we came back to take over the Father's business and the father and mother relationship. And if you remember, that is the pillar of fire. What laid in the pillar of fire was father-mother. That's how he created. That's how he brought forth everything. Father-mother relationship, we stepped back in. Jesus said, I came out from the Father, and I go back to the Father. And that's exactly what you did. You came out from the Father, the pillar of fire. You put on sonship. You went through tutors and governors. You went through hierarchies. You went through dogmas, creeds, and everything else. And you come over here. You hit Sunset Mountain, and we were the age to take off the old garments and put on new garments in Joshua, or in Zechariah, the second and third chapter, Joshua and his dirty garments. We took all of that off. And we took on father and mother relationship now, which means we become one. Male and female is now a female, and it's one. Remember, I spelled it Fehmale. I think it was Brother Gary Williams that sent that first and said, well, just put an H in there. I like that, because they put an H in Abraham and you put an H in Sarah. So we put an H in it, and we now see ourselves as female. And we moved on to phobias and realities. And we looked at that and we said, you know what? These phobias, I'm so scared. Rapture me out of here. Get me out of here. This world's becoming so filthy. It's in full chaos. I'm afraid I'm going to get COVID. I'm afraid I'm going to get this. I'm afraid I'm going to die. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my home. I'm afraid I'm going to. What's the matter? You're an eternal being. Just because you couldn't make your house payment doesn't make you any less. You may lose it. Just because you couldn't buy steaks for your family and you had to buy a cornmeal and a little burger, that's okay. That don't make you any less person. Just because you know, everything's falling apart around you and you're becoming poorer and poorer in the economic scene, which I think we all are, except a little handful, as that's happening to you and you're losing ground economically and inflationally, don't worry about it. That don't make you any less person. You didn't come here to live in a bed of roses. So stop your phobias and look at the realities of what you came here for. What's the purpose of the age? What's the understanding that we have now? What's the power and authority that you have? Is there one being in the universe and all of us living as one in togetherness? And yet he went out there as individual and opened up every little attribute so we could live individually. And our phobias put us where we're scared to death. We're going to die. We don't know the Lord. I don't know if I'm saved. I don't know if I have the Holy Ghost. I don't know where my next meal's coming from. I don't know if I'm going to have a job the way this is going. I don't know what's going to happen next. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about tomorrow. You're an eternal being. And all of this, whether you have COVID or don't, whether you have cancer or don't, whether you have diabetes or don't, whether you have $1 million or don't, doesn't make a bit of difference. It only adds to your experience. Dirt poor or rich. Married 5 times or 1. Or not married at all. Whatever it is, it all adds to your experience. We come to lay our phobias down and just take on the reality. This is what it is. This is what it's about. I am an eternal being. I am an observer, and I'm watching as these things take place, and I'm gaining my knowledge off of it. My uncle died, I felt it. My aunt died, I felt it. My mom and dad died, I felt it. I gained the knowledge of death. I gained the understanding of death. My roses that I worked on, the petals fell off. You get that sad feeling. But I knew it was a part, it was a seasonal life. It was a part, and the life didn't go anywhere, that there's going to be beautiful roses in the next season. So we began to pull away from our phobias, and we went into death, hell, and the grave to get rid of our phobias. And we showed that death has been swallowed up, and our present physical body is swallowing up death, according to Corinthians, the 2 Corinthians, the 5th chapter, and 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, and Paul's writings. And we see that death is swallowed up. We see that hell is just a condition, a mental condition that we put ourselves into, and then the path of all of this thinking and thought, it'll lead you down a path, and it'll put you into what we would call hell. You're not going to a burning fire, you're right here. And if you let this thing do it, this mind right here, it'll put you in hell. Or if you take this mind and go through the theophany mind into the carnal mind, combine the two and get into that spiritual mind, it'll bring you into joy and peace and life. And grave is just nothing but this body. And we resurrected this graveyard out of dead denominationalism. So we went into all that. Our victory swallows our fears. You remember that? It was 2 Corinthians, the 5th chapter. And it showed how that we were not desiring to put this body off. We're not desiring to be unclothed. Get rid of this body. Oh, it's filthy. It's no good. We're not desiring that. What we're desiring to be is clothed. To be put on life to begin to flow, and for it to clothe us, and in so doing put raiment upon us so that we can walk in this life and enjoy this life the way we're supposed to without those fears. And then there's the the life everlasting and eternal. And we showed the difference between eternal and everlasting, and how that everlasting is many blessings and many cycles and many things that happen in your life. It may not be the greatest things in your life, but it's still a blessing because it is teaching you experience from what you gained. And so eternal is your inner being, the person, the observer of who you are, and everlasting is the person who dropped into the earth. That body is an everlasting body. It gets blessings, it gets curses, it gets everything it needs on it. It gets to be poor, rich, maimed, halt, blind, whatever it needs for the theophany to gain its experience. And we keep feeding it back until we come one with the theophany. When we went through the end of the world, the apocalypse, and showed the end of the world has happened many times, and we just keep moving right on through, and we just came through an end of the world. The opening of the seals, Revelations 5, the breaking of those seals, the closing out of the Old Testament and the New Testament, moving over into a brand new age, a brand new day, moving completely out of the Testaments. When we did all that, we were looking at it, and we were thinking the end of the world will be any time. Oh no, the end of the world's coming. It's going to hit us. It's going to destroy everything. Nuclear war is going to happen. It's going to explode everything. Nothing will be left on the face of the earth. It's the end of the world. Well, nothing is left in me that I used to have. And my little body has went through an explosion by uniting with the human and the eternal person. And it has exploded into a brand new person, a brand new day. And I am living in new heaven and new earth. And I'm not worried about any of those things. The end of the world has happened more than once. And it'll happen again and again and again. Because all it is the end of a dispensational period. Or the end of a small measure of time. William Branham, 1909, birthed in April. William Branham, December 24, 1965. A measurement of everlasting. A measurement of finite. A measurement of the beginning and the end of the world. That's what it was. Same way with you. Same way when your mom and dad was here. They went through their end of the world. They went through their beginning. They went through their end. It's Alpha and Omega. Beginning and end. Then we came to the universal soul change. Universal reckoning. Reckoning meaning something is happening to all of us universally. It's not just a change of a person. It is a universal change, and we come to understand that it was a universal soul change. The orbits of the heavens changed. Everything changed. Everything moved into a new day. We moved into the Aquarian stellium. We moved into a brand new age, and we watched this great change take place. And when we seen that universal soul change this time, what we saw was Jesus said, when you leave those 7 brethren, which we did, we had 7 brethren, Paul, Irenaeus, Martin, Columba, Luther, Wesley, Branham, when you leave those 7 and they die, and the woman dies also, which she did, that's what you got, is a dead age, that nature is no longer, then what did we do? We moved into a new nature. We moved into a new day. We moved into a new age, a new dispensation. And that life form brought in an angelic age. Jesus said it in Matthew 21 and 22. He brought in this angelic age, this age of the resurrection, where there'll be neither marriage nor taken in marriage. And he goes on and tells all kinds of different attributes of the angels and the angels' orders and their natures. And he's laying it all out. And then what did we do? We become aware of angels among us. This is an angelic age. This is an angelic power and authority. And we begin to realize that Michael and Gabriel and Wormwood and Lucifer, 4 desired natures of angels that was going to blend into humanity at the opening of the seals. And we're right now beginning to recognize it and beginning to manifest it. And those 4 are not angels floating around out here somewhere. They're natures in us. And we use Michael when we need to. We use Gabriel when we need to. We use Wormwood when we need to. And then we use Lucifer, that light bearer, when we need to. Becoming aware of angels among us. We went through Hebrews 2, Hebrews 9. We went through so many places where He said that we were made lower than the angels for a season. That was humanity. And then when you bring the angelic attribute out of us and mix it with humanity, we go above all of that angelic separation and humanity separated. We join the two together and we rise above it all and go to the right hand and power of the majesty or of the Spirit. We move into another age. And we saw how that all visions were fulfilled in this Abrahamic age. You remember? I read to you where William Branham said, all visions has been fulfilled. Where are we at in this Abrahamic age when all visions has been fulfilled? So I'm not looking for another vision of the church ages to break open somewhere and we say, oh, that was what was prophesied. This is the end of the church ages. This is Laodicea. No. We're way past that. I put that emblem out the United Nations used of the leopard. And immediately people started talking about that was the power of the beast that was going to raise up in the Antichrist. And I wrote back and said, look, I didn't put it out for that reason. I put it out to show you that the United Nations and the humanity is going right after their patterns, and it's a symbol of what had happened. And we look back at it just like the golden image of the calf was a symbol of what happened to Egypt. You know what Moses told Aaron to do? He said, get that golden calf, put it in a fire, melt it down, put it in their water, and make them drink it. So all of that age, the age of the church, what do? We came down to the end and we drank it and it became us and we stepped into a new age in this day. Then we looked at the healing waters of life and we talked about stirring the waters of life by the angels. Remember John the 5th chapter? The angel came down, stirred the water, and it was a healing process of humanity. And the waters are being stirred right now, heavily stirred by angelic attributes in us coming out, stirring the water, and it brings a healing across the nations. It brings a healing globally. It brings a healing spiritually in us. And we talked about these healing waters of life. We talked about how Ezekiel seen it flowing out of the tabernacle, which we are the tabernacle, and it flowed through the south, and it dropped down and went into the ocean. And he said every place that water flowed, it brought life. It brought life back. And that's exactly where we're at now. We're in the healing waters of life as we combine angelic authority and power into the waters or into the aquatic animal or into humanity, and we become one. And when that happens, it is the purging of all things. Well, I thought we were going to judge them, we were going to damn them, we were going to put them in hell, we were going to burn them, then bring them out of hell and burn them again after we judge them again. It's just the things of the past, such phobias and such silliness. We know better now. The purging of all things, these eyes of fire, which we stepped into at the breaking of those seals, and these eyes of fire, and these eyes that look before and behind, and it began to purge everything. William Branham's eyes, he looked back, that great angel, he looked back and he said, there's Paul, Irenaeus, Martin, Columba, Luther, Wesley, Branham. They're all clean, they're all holy, they're all pure, they were church age messengers, and all that followed them are sinless. And they were people that were in adultery. They were people that were full of sin. They were people that were drinking and smoking and cursing and lying. They were people that had Trinitarian doctrines. They had Trinity doctrines. They didn't believe Mary was even a virgin. They had all kinds of doctrines moving among them in the Calvins and in all the different ones. William Branham, those purging eyes, said they're clean. They're holy. Well, these purging eyes today, your eyes and mine, We're looking out across all things and we're saying, it's clean, it's holy, it's purged. We came through the end. We're in a new day. Let's move on. And so we went into that and we talked about our inheritance in heaven and how that our inheritance in heaven was, heaven is in us. Our inheritance is in us. And we're not flying away somewhere to get an inheritance up there, step before a white throne, and him call Dom Parnell, and then him say, okay, here's your inheritance based on what you did while you're in the earth. You get a bicycle. You didn't do real well. And you got to live in this little shanty down here by the river because you didn't do what you should do. And we thought all of that was going to happen. But no, the purging is now. And the rewarding is now. Everything is now. And our inheritance is in us. And as we gain our attributes, we gain our inheritance. Fullness of the Godhead bodily. We went into that, which was an eye-opener for me. I always knew that I was part of the fullness of the Godhead bodily. I always knew that. When I was young, I tried to teach that when we was in a Lafayette church, and they just about scalped me. And so being the young boy I was, I kind of got scared, and I just quit preaching on things like that. But I could see it. And as my elders who were in the message began to die out one by one, all of this began to flow in me, and I said, now's the time. Now's the time. So we came to the Godhead bodily, and we showed how that Jesus was an emissary. There was one man, took that Godhead bodily in him, but when he went to Calvary and shed all of that, come back on the day of Pentecost as the Holy Ghost, from that point on, it was another body. It was the same Jesus, but he had moved into an alpha, a new age, and he was bringing a new age out down through the church ages, and it would have an omega in it. But for a period of time, the fullness of the Godhead bodily laid in one man, but that's not what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to move in us. And at the opening of the seals, it was all still hid, even though it was coming down as a full body under the veil, under the canvas. The architect, the sculptor, working on it, on his sculpture, and the prophet come along and ripped the veil back. The mighty God unveiled before us. And we looked and we seen a great pyramid with the Holy Ghost sitting on it. And then we heard in the future home that that pyramid was the 7 church ages. And that pyramid was all these different things. And we began to realize that all of these things, the fullness of the Godhead bodily, was still here in the earth. It was moving in humanity. It was moving in man. And we come back to that Godhead bodily, recognize it in the 5th chapter, open it up at the opening of the seal, 5th chapter of Revelation, and now it's upon us, and we know who we are. Then we talked about all things, the age of all things. Heaven and earth, all things, Ephesians 1, Colossians 2, the future home, mighty God unveiled before us, the 7th seal, all things moved into this great age. And we are in a humanity/angelic age that's bringing these two things together and making them one. And we are all things now. And whatever you want to tap into, you can tap into it. We are all things. It's all ours. So we come through 21. When you look back across it, what a walk. We weren't walking to the promised land. I'm talking about walking in the promised land. We are in the promised land. We are in the greatest understanding that has ever taken place. We didn't only cross the Red Sea, we crossed the Jordan. We come through all of it, and we are in the land, and we have conquered all of it, and we've moved out of that conquering stage, and now it's a blending in stage of everything that's around us and bringing it all to one, bringing the angels, heaven and earth, bringing humanity, bringing it all into one thing. And this is the age of all things. So we see this. I hope this is helping you. 2022. Here we are. December 26th. Got 5 days left. We're going to break into 2022. Right away, a stellium cluster forms in Capricorn, stabilizing, bringing to earth the stellium cluster that happened in Aquarius. Angels in heaven, angels in the highest heaven, Aquarius, and now angels in earth. A stellium breaking forth, a cluster of stars in the zodiac, in the Capricorn house, showing that these angels in heaven of the Aquarian stellium in 21 have now become the angels in earth of the Capricorn stellium in 22. We're going to watch and see some great things happening. 2022. I titled the motto, and if you want to use it, that's fine. If you don't care about it, that's fine too. This is what I see. 2022, strengthening the Aquarian wave. The last 2 years, 20 and 21, have removed the thick clouds over the Aquarian age. We couldn't see for all the chaos of Saturn. Saturn is such a dominant, and Saturn just it eats its own babies. It does. It's a really rough planetary house. And the last 2 years have removed those thick clouds over the Aquarian age and the move into the angelic atmosphere. We are accepting that. We're accepting the move. We're accepting who we are. We're accepting that the angels are not out there, but it is attribute in us, and it's breaking open, and that attribute has new frequencies and new vibrations for us that we just didn't even know was ours. So we didn't have a chip to catch it. But now that chip has broke open, and it's real, and it's catching it. Our minds are becoming clear all the time with what we have to accomplish. We know there are things to accomplish. The Aquarian wave, is what I will call it, is fully upon us. Now, after the last 60 years of transition, we come through from the opening of those seals. A whole generation had to die out. We moved into another generation, and that whole transition. But now, the 20 years old and upward, us and all who all that we are, I'm just using that as a pattern. We have moved into a brand new day, the closing of the Second Testament, and a closing of the short duration of the Third Testament brought us to our maturity, teaching us how to accept change. I will tell you, just as a help for you in a term, what you can call the Third Testament, and it's probably more accurate than calling it the Third Testament, and that is the Omega Age. The Alpha Age, Jesus' birth, 0 AD, all the way up through Jesus' teachings, all the way out into Calvary, the resurrection, then a 20-year period of all the apostles And it's 53 AD. And then in comes the church age spirit. 53 years of the perfect Alpha revelation on the scene. It was Alpha, a big white moon hanging there. Should be at the front end of those church ages. Then you go into church age number 1, a little black, and it keeps going and going and going until it goes into total darkness in Laodicea. Alpha was 53 years long. Switch over to 1963, opening of the seals. When we first caught it, got an understanding of it, we said, oh, this is the New Testament. This is the Third Testament. That was fine. I mean, we were right in the middle of something. We didn't know what to call it. We were trying to figure out what to call it. But now that I personally am past it, I can look back there and I can say, wow, that was 53 years back there from Jesus to 53 AD. And now it's been almost the same 54 years from 1963 up until where we're at in 22. So it was the exact same. Remember, Jesus said, I am Alpha and Omega. Masterpiece. Brother Branham said nothing in between. It's all just growing pains. But Alpha and Omega, and they came through Alpha and Omega, and Omega ended and brought on a new age. And even a lot of those that caught the Third Testament didn't want to come into the new age. And they call themselves the Third Testament. I know, I'm the one that termed it that. And everybody began to call it that. Not one person told me what it was. And I was looking at it and I said, this is another testament. All I knew to call it's the third. But now I'm past that coming. I'm totally past that coming. And I can look back at it and I can say that was the Omega of the church age. There was the Alpha, then 7 church ages, and then Omega. So we've come out. The Third Testament was like the first Alpha opening before the Second Testament. We could call it the Omega age, the Third Testament. There was an Alpha age, 0 to 53, wherein Jesus, the disciples, and in Pentecost brought on the Second Testament, and they went 20 years after Pentecost, and then in 53 AD, they left their first love. Perfectness went away. That little encapsulation, that little emissary, that little pattern of us went away. And it came back at the opening of those seals and was another 54 years. Closing it out. At the closing of the Second Testament was the Omega age. It was done. Omega had ended. Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending of the Second Testament. Omega was from 63 AD to 214 AD, 51 years, and we caught the revelation of this new day, almost identical to the Alpha age. So there's your Alpha and Omega, church ages in between, and we're past all of it. We left the ending period or transition and broke away from the testaments altogether. We are all together in a new age, outside of the church ages, outside of all the testaments, all the books, all the scriptures, all the prophecies, of all those things and times and dispensations. It's done. It's over. We're outside it. We went without the camp. The camp was Alpha, church ages, Omega. We've gone beyond the camp. We've went outside the camp. It's a brand new day. I think the motto for 2022 is strengthening the Aquarian wave, because that's what we're going to do this year. We even have a strong power number base, the strongest in the world, that's coming up early in the year. It'll be the year 22. It'll be February 2 and 22 So you got 22, 2, 22. February showing 2 is just 11. I don't know whether you know that or not. And 22 is just 11, whether you know it or not. And 11 is the strongest power base. We are entering into the year wherein the Capricorn stellium is going to bring the strongest power base into the earth and show it even by the calendar numbers. We even have the strong power base number of 22, and we will have that early in the year, a 220222, strengthening the new wave, moving in by the calendar and moving in by the zodiac, the stellium in Capricorn. That's Jupiter, organization. We're beginning to take on form and understanding. We will see politics take a swift move. We've seen it, and it's going to do it more. Strap your belts. You ain't seen nothing yet. We will see politics take a swift move, exposing corruption within the nations, and a more aggressive move towards the will of the people. Remember I said when Jesus, when he wasn't in the boat anymore with the leadership of that church ages, what did he do? He come walking in the people. There's a strong people movement, grassroots movement, an aggressive move towards organization, real organization, Jupiter, Neptune, real spiritual, and Uranus slowly coming, which brings on the great vision of the Aquarian age. It's all coming to fruition by 2024. 2022 and 23 will be doing a lot. And we will see the scribes. I've had this written down for a couple weeks, just looking at things. You remember I wrote and said there's two that Jesus called out, and that was the religious Pharisees and the scribes. Scribes is the media, your newspapers, all these different media. We will see the scribes begin to fall, and the media networks move swiftly towards truth. You're watching it now. Go on the internet. Watch ION, Newsmax. I could just keep naming them, just going on and on and on. That's just reporting back to journalism, reporting real news and laying out the truth so the people get to have their will. Right now, you've got a bunch of hypocritical media that's living in a Piscean age trying to hold that hierarchy, and the scribes and the Pharisees and the media networks will move swiftly towards truth and journalism, which is almost lost at this point. But look at what's happening right now. You got a major organization who these guys at the top are falling left and right. CNN is not being shown in the airports anymore. CNN has all of these guys falling, one after the other after the other. It is, and I'm not talking against CNN. I'm telling you it's happening, and it's going to keep moving throughout the world, and you're going to see many of this media toppling and falling because they are not willing to bring the truth and expose the lie. And I will tell you this without a shadow of a doubt. Good always overcomes evil. And sometimes the Spirit will allow evil for a season to wake you up, to push you further, to make you realize the good things that you have. And I think we're going through that since January of this year. We're going through that right now. It should be waking you up. I don't care who you voted for or what you're doing in any of the other countries. What's going on politically should be waking you up and making you realize the media is the big culprit in all of these things happening. We'll watch that begin to topple. We will see the spiritual movement bring in more of an atmosphere towards the angelic nature and towards the correct movement in humanity, toppling all these things and exposing everything. Humanity will become stronger in its convictions and in its people's government. We, the people. Not towards democracy. I'm not talking about that. Some people get all tore up at me. They think I'm some kind of racist or I'm some kind of Republican or something. I'm not talking against that. We will become stronger in our convictions, our own personal convictions. We will change our convictions as we watch these things topple. Humanity will become stronger. It will become more of a people's government, humanity itself, not towards any democracy, towards any fascism or communism or socialism or capitalism. I'm not even discussing that. But more towards a republic. A republic just meaning towards a people's rule of law, not a government's rule of law. Not some hierarchy, some autocracy or something like that. Not that kind of rule of law, but more towards a people's rule of law, or bringing humanity back to its feet and having it stand as individuals and stand together. I'm talking about that. This will be global. Democracy. You know what democracy is. America is not a democracy. They're trying to make it one. America is a republic. A democracy is mob rule. A democracy is the majority reigns. If the majority thinks that somebody is wrong, well, string that 17-year-old boy up, Rittenhouse. Just stringing up, he is low life, he's no good, and he needs to die. If we would have followed the majority, that boy wouldn't be free. But we're not a democracy. We follow the rule of law. Now, sometimes democracy comes in, but that's not what we're fighting for. That's not what you're fighting for. You don't want a democracy. A republic is a kingship where the righteous rule through many. Righteousness coming up in people and the people's government taking over. All of these things will strengthen the Aquarian wave. Bring the female, male and female, characteristics. It'll bring the rise in the woman's nature. Woman being the great authority, the wife, the understanding, all of these things, raising up these people that have an awareness. Brings the woman's nature, and it'll topple many of the economic systems. You're just seeing the beginning. It will be a very tumultuous year. Thank God for Jupiter, or we would really see some chaos. Thank God for that orbital change that the Spirit is doing for us. The spiritual wave across the earth will continue to pull the atmospheres of humanity and angelic natures together. As Jupiter, Neptune, and Uranus move their way into Aquarius, it brings this spiritual wave deeper and deeper and deeper and stronger, and it will begin to open up more and more attributes and bring on this angelic nature within us. The ways of the earth will continue to be strengthened. Capricorn stellium. That's why I'm saying it. And it will become strongholds in many of the societies. People are beginning to stand up in groves, in masses, across all the nations. It's happening. As we move into 2023, Neptune, Uranus, and Jupiter begin to bring in the planetary strength, and Saturn will begin to wane its way out. And all this chaos, you're going to watch it settle down. You're going to watch a lot of changes and a lot of moves. Spiritual vibrations will begin stronger and become stronger with frequencies that will raise us into a higher consciousness as we break these attributes open in us, and we will see great moves into the depths of this wave over the next 2 years. So you're prophesying, Brother Parnell? I'm just telling you the facts of a brand new age and where we're headed by prophets, by scriptures, by books, by by stelliums, by zodiac, by mind and heart, and by understanding. We're moving into these things. Spiritual vibrations. Moving into the depths of this wave of Aquarius over the next 2 years. I'm looking forward to great things as the grip of government will loosen across the globe. And the wills of the people across the different nations will begin to rise and take their places and take their positions. And you might say, boy, it doesn't look like it right now, Brother Parnell. They're building communes in Australia. They're putting people in them. They're building communes in Canada. They're building communes in America. They're doing all these things, and they're pushing all the unvaccinated, and they're pushing all the chaotic people. They're pushing them into these, and it's going to become great concentration camps and everything else. I don't care what they're doing. Under Saturn, they might try to do just about anything because chaos is Saturn's way. But I'm telling you, Saturn is moving out. Uranus, Neptune, and Jupiter are coming in, and they are going to settle down. I know it's just planets. I know it's just emblematic. But I also know that he told Moses, what you see in the heavens, build it into the tabernacles in earth. And that's what I see in the heavens. I don't claim to be no Moses. I don't claim to be no Jesus. But I am a Dom Parnell. I am an Atorialo Yansa. And I do see things that are happening right now. Looking forward to these great things as the grip of government will loosen. The people are fed up with it. It will loosen. It will go global. People across the different nations will begin to rise. They'll take their positions, and the Aquarian age, the brand new day, brand new books being written, brand new people, angel clusters moving together into the earth. It's all happening all around us. This is the resurrection age. This is the new day. This is the raptured with an ED on it. This is the raptured age. And we're in it. Greatest blessing that I've ever seen. Greatest understanding that's going on around me. I just shake my head at times. You say, but Brother Parnell, they're saying we're going to have food shortages. We're going to have this. We're going to have that. You're not promised anything other than the revelation of Jesus Christ and the rewards of the revelation of Jesus Christ. And all of these other things, which may happen, all of these other things are just experiences that you move through. Be an observer, understand, gain how it feels. What is the emotion of all this? Why did this take place? How does this set up the tone and the tenure and the nature of the Aquarian age? And stop looking at it like it's a horrible thing, like there's two spirits battling out here, because there's not. Everything is moving into its place. We're looking for it. We're watching it. And it's happening all around us. Love bless you. It's a great day. It's a great understanding. Great Spirit, we come to you. You that lives in every one of us. You gave us our individual beings. You pushed us out there and you put within us all the attributes that we need. And you are the one inside me right now. It is me. I'm not talking to another. I'm talking to me. It's time. Heal our bodies. Move us into healing waters. Take us into the great Aquarian age. Move us into where we understand everything that's happening around us. Move the chains, the dogmas, everything away from us. And help us to be an individual and stand as one when we need to. And be an individual and stand together when we need to. That's what I ask you. I'm not asking for riches. I'm not asking for great power. I'm not asking for authority. I'm not asking for any certain person to go into any government, White House or Kremlin, or I'm not asking for any of that. I'm asking that you let us stand in this age and lead this age into a greater humanity and into this brand new day. No matter who the men are, who the women are. I'm watching them rise. I see many great ones raising up in this movement, in religion, in politics, in every way. I see it happening, and I thank you for it. In the name of Jesus Christ, the only name that represented all of us at one time. And now here we are again. All of us representing who we are. We're the emissaries. We're the ambassadors. We're the ones to bring this forth. Love bless you. I hope it's blessed you. We will come back next week and start a new year. Start a new day. And I believe that we are moving into one of the greatest years, power bases, that we will see in centuries and centuries and centuries. Love bless.